Let us move to the next session. Uh, this one is going to be, I think, very, very close to the heart for a number of us here, definitely for me. And for you, if you've been following the Indian publishing industry, not even really following, but just picking up books and reading over the years. Because in the next session, we're going to hear the story of a publishing house that extremely close to my heart and to the hearts of millions of Indian readers. Heck, they were the rock star Indian, publishing imprint. And for a long time, they were held right up there. They showed us the way. They did a lot of good publishing work, and they brought out very many interesting titles over the years. So, in the next session, which is about the Westland Saga, we're going to hear how a small family-run business, a publishing business, went to the heights, scaled the heights that it did. And in doing so, what were the turns, the twists, the ups, the downs, and there were many of them that they had to navigate. That's what we're going to hear in this superb conversation between Benedict Paramanand and Gautam Padmanabhan. To anchor this, I welcome on screen, I can't say on stage, on screen, Benedict Paramanand. Hi, Ben. Hi. So, Benedict Paramanand, or Ben as we call him, is a media entrepreneur in the advocacy and impact space. He covers sustainability, green business, social entrepreneurship, and business literature a lot. And he's had a long career in media and as a journalist. He's the editor of the magazine Sustainability Next, the founder of This Fest, BBLF, as we heard earlier, and of Greenlit Fest, which focuses on sustainable literature. He's the author of the books C.K. Prahlad, The Mind of the Futurist, and Smash, The Rise of Indian Badminton, Stories of Grit and Triumph.
Hi, Ganesh.
Finally. Yes, sir.
I was trying to get Gautam in. So he had a bit of a challenge.
Okay. Yeah, he's online now.
Yeah, so I missed I missed you introducing me though while trying to fix
this. Nothing you haven't heard before, so that's okay.
Okay. So
yes, so over to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ganesh. It's gone well so far. Welcome, Gautam.
Yeah, hi, Benedict.
Hi. Okay. So let me start it this way, that typically moderators say that speakers don't need introduction and then go ahead and reading their bios. But in Gautam's case, I must say that he does need an introduction. Not so much because he hasn't accomplished enough, but because he's such a shy guy and he stays out of the limelight. So I have to introduce him a bit. Hope you can bear with it, Gautam.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm honored to be on a fireside chat with you. So let me start with saying that it won't be an exaggeration if I introduce you as one of India's most accomplished publishers. Gautam has witnessed a complete cycle, so to speak, of the evolution of the publishing industry, from a small office in Chennai in 1987 to becoming one of India's top 5 brands and published several bestsellers. I've known Gautam from 2014 when he published my book, C.K. Prahlad, The Mind of the Futurist. Thank you for that, Gautam.
It's a pleasure.
So I also have to mention here that Westland was one of the early sponsors of BBLF in 2015. That was quite helpful, Gautam. Thank you. Yeah. So let's start off with Ganesh. Can you put the Outlook creative there? I mean the picture. Yeah. Okay. Let me start with this question, Gautam. That you are known to create Aam Janata writers. uh, the likes of Amish Tripathi, Ashwin Sanghi, Rashmi Bansal, uh, Chetan Bhagat, Devdutt Patnaik. So take us through a bit of how did you do this?
I think one of the, uh, I guess, the foundations of our whole business has been we started out as third-party distributors, and at one time we were distributors for most of the, international publishers like HarperCollins and Penguin Random House and many others. And one thing that really struck me was that when you look at the Indian bestseller lists in those days, it was dominated by foreign names. It was Ludlum, it was Jeffrey Archer, and so on and so forth. And I always felt that where are the Indian authors who can kind of, you know, uh, uh, break into the top 10? And why is it that we don't have Indian authors breaking into the top 10? Chetan Bhagat was obviously an early mover. And it just so happened, I think our timing was right because that was around the time that Trent, who were our owners at that point of time, suggested that we get into publishing in a big way, rather than concentrating on third-party distribution. And I think the timing was just right. There were authors like Amish and Rashmi Bansal and Ashwin Sanghi who were just about going to emerge, and that was around the time we started seriously publishing, and we were on the lookout for such authors. And so I think it just happened at the right time.
Yeah, uh, interesting. Uh, and they have gone on to sell hundreds of thousands of copies. Has it been a? It has been a financial success for Westland, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah. In fact, each of these authors, I mean, I think we really built our name, I think, on the back of these authors, on the success of these authors.
Yeah. So the connected question is, how do you pick them? There's an art, and you've been credited with the art of picking the bestsellers. How do you do that?
No, I think it was so. Now, each one I think is a different story because I think the three names that you mentioned, two of these authors were self-published, so they already had some kind of a track record before we came on board.
Mhm.
I think with Amish, we definite and Rashmi, they both had self-published. With Ashwin, the story was slightly different. We actually had self-published the book for an international market and was just looking for a distributor in India. And
Mhm.
at that point of time, he, gave us a copy of this book, The Rosable Line. And like I was saying, we were looking for that Indian equivalent of international bestsellers. And what struck us was that The Rosable Line was very much in the space of a Dan Brown, who had just hit the headlines with, the Da Vinci Code. So what we did was we actually got the book read by a team of readers, and of course that included my father and my wife and a few other friends who actually just read the book, and we read it, just to see if it was entertaining, whether the book, gripped us, and then we just felt that this is the right book to publish. And Ashwin was actually quite surprised because he actually approached us only to distribute the book, and we turned around and said, "Look, we'll publish it." So that's how we discovered Ashwin.
And some of them have written business books. How did you manage to do that?
Well, I think this whole, let's say, generation of writers came from a business background. If you take Amish, he's an IM product. Ashwin again comes from a family business background. So all of them had that business background, and I think the whole approach to uh, the marketing of books also was very different. In fact, Amish was probably the first author who sent me a presentation, a PowerPoint
Okay.
presentation on how to market the book. Which
Okay.
was like it was rare in those days. I mean, nobody shared presentations. I mean, this is
Yeah.
true of Chetan Bhagat again. He came from a business background. So I think it was just that. I think it was a combination of the writers, this whole new breed of writers coming from a business background. All of them had day jobs, and then who took to writing and then made a success of writing.
Mhm. Interesting. Uh, Somewhere I read that you follow this very interesting principle, author happiness mantra. Can you tell us something about it?
Okay. Well, again, I should quote another author, Ravi Subramaniam, who again comes from a business background,
Yeah.
who famously said that the author is the CEO of his book.
Hmm.
And I think that is an important lesson for publishers, because end of the day, each book, each for the author, his or her book is actually like their baby, and it's so important for us to actually help them in achieving their dreams or their goals with that particular title. So I think author happiness starts with that understanding, and our attempt has always been to that whatever we promise to an author, first of all in terms of the marketing or way we would go about selling the book, we deliver on those promises, right from the quality of, let's say, the production of the book, the editorial inputs, the distribution and the marketing. Whatever we promise, we should deliver, and that's something that has been a mantra. I don't think it's just me. I think it's the whole organization. I think collectively, everybody in Westland have always had that belief, and any author can actually approach anybody in the organization and find out what is happening at any given point of time. And that's another important aspect, that we communicate, and we're always ready to listen. I think that in a way sums up what author happiness is all about. And I think one of the interesting experiences in the last stint with Amazon was that Amazon actually had a author satisfaction score. They used to actually survey authors, and on various aspects of the whole uh, publication process, to understand what their feedback was, and if they didn't find things were working out, what went wrong or what went right. And I was really, I think as a team, we were really proud that we were averaging something like 95% on an author satisfaction score
Wow,
uh, over a period of the last 3-4 years.
that's so
So
amazing.
that's something that really satisfied us. Having said all this, I don't think any publisher can guarantee that that the book will be a success. It's only that we put in our best effort to make it work.
That's interesting. So, you're the only publisher in our eighth edition of BBLF. So, I'd like to ask you to take us through the publishing landscape in India today. How difficult is it for new authors to get in?
I think it is. It depends on what you're writing. I think it's much easier today if you're a non-fiction writer. I think most publishers are looking for non-fiction. I think it's much tougher to be a fiction writer in this current market. But I would not lose hope. I think these things are cyclical, and at some point, fiction will come back, into the limelight.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully so. Uh, okay, this
I also
question.
think there are other opportunities for fiction writers today. I think it's the way you tell a story. It doesn't need to always end up as a book. I think the OTT landscape has opened up a lot of space for new writers. There are, like, for example, the Pratilipi app and similar apps where people can actually write and actually monetize their writing. So I think
Mhm.
the opportunities are many. It's going to be very tough to be probably discovered in the traditional way, but I think there are several options today also for authors. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty optimistic about the landscape.
that's interesting. Uh, yeah, I've been waiting to ask this question. That you seem to like working with brands, corporate brands, unlike other publishers. You started off with Landmark, then Tatas acquired Westland, and after that, Amazon acquired you. That must have been a really high point in your career and life. Uh, Now that Amazon, uh, I don't want to say dumped you, but Amazon is not there now, and you moved to Pratilipi. So, is it a kind of a cycle from a startup to another startup? Can you just take us through this journey?
One of my favorite lines is that I'm one of the few people, like most people's career, there's a career path where you go from one place to another, different organizations, and go up the corporate ladder. In my case, I have stood in the same place. It's just the ground beneath my feet that keeps changing. So yeah, I mean it's. I don't think any of these. I think each of these decisions were like opportunities or responses to challenges, and I think we have enjoyed each one of these. I have no regrets, and I think we are really quite excited with the current, you know, uh, 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 opportunity of working with Pratilipi. And we see a lot of synergy and hopefully a lot of uh, doing a lot of good things as we go along.
So, just take us through that transition, uh, well-oiled publishing machine, and moving into Pratilipi, a startup. I'm sure it is exciting, but take us through that transition a bit.
See, some things have not changed at all in the sense that we continue to publish the way we used to publish, say, even in Amazon or Trent. I don't think anything has changed on the ground as far as the way we publish books. But what Pratilipi does give us is the opportunity to look at content in all its forms. It's no longer just saying, okay, we're going to publish a physical book and that, okay, there could be an ebook version of it, maybe an audiobook version of it. But today we can look at the fact that, there's the option of actually converting a book into a podcast
Yeah.
or converting a book into a comic, into a graphic novel or a comic, a digital comic. And down the line, there could be other opportunities like OTT or gaming, which will emerge. So I think it just kind of helps us to, kind of change our mindset in the way we look at content and, explore all these different avenues.
So, yeah, you're also a big reader, I understand. Connected with business, this is a business lit fest. What are the best business books you have read?
I must confess that I haven't read that many business books. I tend to read more fiction and other subjects. There are a few which stood out for me. I definitely read both the books on Amazon. The Everything Store. That was a very interesting read.
Mhm,
I also read a book called Creativity Inc., which was
mhm.
about the whole Pixar story. So I
Yeah,
think the business books that I tend to pick up are in a way linked with the media. I remember I read another book on Netflix, on the early days of Netflix, by the co-founder of Netflix, not Reed Hastings, the other person. And even that I found very interesting. So I tend to read business books which are kind of allied with the media space.
so for the business book publishing genre as such, uh, wha- what are your suggestions for writers to make it work? Because it's still a small segment. Uh, they say that it's best selling, it just sells 5,000 copies and they call it bestseller. How can we really take business publishing to the next level?
No, I think one of the challenges has been that while there are lots of interesting stories in terms of Indian business, and if today India is now ranked as the fifth largest economy, obviously it's been driven by many businesses. But some of these stories are not being told, they're being probably told in a very, like it tends to be very authorized.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody tells a story what's and all. Unfortunately, the environment is also not so easy for authors to just write a book, which could have something negative about a particular organization. But that's a fact. I think if that would change, I think you would have a lot more interesting books, a lot more interesting stories coming out of India. And given the fact that there's so much of interest in Indian business or Indian businesses are now going international, I only see a bright future for business writing from India.
Oh, that's interesting. That's good to hear. Uh, I mean, I was surprised you mentioned about the earlier writers who self-published their books and then you picked it up, because now the new trend is that self-publishing is a big thing. And where do you think it's going?
I think digitally it seems to have a brighter future at this point.
Mhm.
I think one of the challenges of self-publishing is the distribution and the marketing. And at this point of time, I have not seen much happening on that front. I'm talking about the physical distribution. Uh, but it definitely is an option for authors because there are, let's face it, very few publishers. I don't think there are enough publishers to actually take care of all the manuscripts that are coming out. And like I said, self-publishing could be the start of being picked up by a more mainstream publisher as a second stage, or you could even succeed as a self-published author.
Yeah, I guess so. So you mentioned that Westland was good at keeping its promises, especially with marketing. But we have seen that most publishing companies really don't support authors with marketing effort. So how does I mean, how does one work this out?
See, one of the challenges of publishing is the margins. That and if you look at the kind of discounts, and I'm not talking about online discounts here, but I'm just talking about the trade discounts, which is what is given to the distributors and the retailers. And if you look at the costs of publishing that and the small print runs, the money that can actually be allocated to marketing, even if you took a budget of say 10%, and like you also mentioned, if the average book is going to sell only 3,000, 5,000 copies,
Yeah. Mhm.
you can just do the maths for yourself and say, see, how much is the budget that a publisher can really allocate to marketing.
Mhm.
That I think is one of the biggest challenges for publishers. I think the key thing that we try to do is to look at how we can leverage, say, social media, or use digital tools for marketing. Today, for example, on Amazon, you could use Amazon's marketing services to advertise. It's an evolving field as far as book marketing is concerned, but the biggest challenge is the budget.
Yeah. So let's take one audience question and then we'll wrap it up. We just have a minute.
Yeah.
Any business literature suggestions translated from Indian languages, Gautam?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Uh, are there good business books that you have seen that have been translated from Indian languages?
No, honestly, I'm not aware of this. That doesn't mean that they aren't.
Mhm.
But I am not. I'm not aware of any business book that was actually first published in an Indian language and then translated. If I'm right, there have been a few which Penguin picked up. They
Mhm.
had this whole series, if I remember right, kind of a business library, where there were a few titles that were translated. If I'm right.
Great. So we'll close this with a big thank you, Gautam. And I'm sure you bring in the spirit of author happiness into Pratilipi as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Benedict. Thank you for having me on this.
Yeah, pleasure.
Okay,
Thanks a lot.
bye.
Thanks a lot.